This is Dr. Osborne with Web Wellness University, and today I want to talk a little bit about grain. So many people going gluten-free in today's nutritional world to treat a variety and battery of different health problems, from IBS to celiac disease to migraine headaches to autoimmune conditions. And gluten-free traditionally means going wheat, barley, and rye-free. But so many people pull up short. They stop short. They don't cut all the grain out. And so they continue to have chronic health issues. This has been confirmed in a number of different research studies that people who don't fully cut grain out continue to suffer with a lot of the same types of inflammatory problems. Well, why does that happen? Well, if we look at this diagram, I want to show and point out some of the reasons why grain as a food in the diet is just not a good choice. Whether you are gluten sensitive or whether you aren't gluten sensitive, let's just take a quick look at some of these things. So, reason number one, heavy metals. It's been shown that many forms of corn and corn syrup contain the heavy metal mercury, linked to neurological disease, linked to nerve damage, linked to ataxia, linked to memory loss, linked to so many different types of health issues. If we look at rice as a grain, classically it's considered a gluten-free grain, but rice in and of itself can be very, very high in arsenic and cadmium. Both of these heavy metals can mimic calcium deficiency and zinc deficiency. So what happens next? Chronic muscle spasm, chronic pain, hormone disruption. These are very, very big issues. Let's look at number two reason to avoid grain as an overall food. Excessive omega-6 fatty acids. Your corn oil, your other grain-based oils and grain-based products are extremely high in omega-6. And one of the reasons why the American diet is very, very inflammatory. Remember, omega-6 promotes inflammation. Its counterpart, omega-3, which is an essential fatty acid, is the counter to inflammation. So if we're over-consuming omega-6 fatty acids, our bodies have a chronicity toward inflammation. So we make our bodies more prone to developing inflammatory conditions. Reason number three, leaky gut syndrome, aka intestinal hyperpermeability. Leaky gut is caused by grain consumption. This has been confirmed in a number of research studies. So imagine your gut, instead of being there doing the job it's supposed to do, in essence, instead of separating good from bad and absorbing good nutrients into the bloodstream, you've got these microscopic punch holes in your gut wall, and it allows bacteria and proteins from these bacteria and viruses and other things to leak into your immune system, to leak into your bloodstream, triggering all different forms of autoimmune diseases. So we don't want to induce leaky gut, therefore we cut the grain out of the diet. Excessive carbohydrates. Grains are extremely high in carbohydrates. Now, we've all been told by nutritionists and doctors who don't really have all that great of a training in nutrition that we need a 60%, our diet needs to be 60% carbs, 30% protein, 10% fat. In other words, low fat, high carb diets. Now, if we look at the last 40 years of this advice, we've got more cancer, more heart disease, more diabetes, and more obesity. It's because excessive carbohydrates contribute to these diseases. So high levels of grain in the diet contributes to excessive carbs and leads to a number of different blood sugar disruptive problems leading to chronic degenerative disease. Again, chronic inflammation and pain. Mold. What many of you don't realize is that when grain is stored in big bins, it has a tendency to grow multiple species and different forms of mold. Now, many people are allergic to mold, and so they're reacting to mold items in the grain itself. But then there's this other thing that mold produces. If we come over here to mycotoxins, mycotoxins can be deadly to humans. There are some mycotoxins that are used in chemical warfare to kill the enemy. And so grain-based foods are very, very high in mycotoxins. In the US, there's no limit on mycotoxins. In other words, your food can be high in mycotoxins. In grain-based foods, there was a study done a few years ago on mycotoxins found, especially in corn-based products, were very, very high and contributing to a lot of inflammation in people consuming them. So mold and mycotoxins, just another set of reasons why we don't want grain in the diet. Then we look at GMO. Now, not all grains GMO, but corn, 90% plus of the corn produced in this country is made from genetically modified seed. And that in and of itself, the safety has not been well established. All of the studies are very, very short term. But the long-term studies in animals show cancer and gastrointestinal dysfunction and disease. So GMO can be very, very, in my opinion, very dangerous. And so I would highly encourage you to avoid it. So GMO grains, definitely a no-no. Then we come down here to pesticides. Now, pesticides, if we look at the way grain is grown, most conventional grains, we spray the field with pesticide, then we spray it again right before harvest. So the grains get a double dose of pesticide before they're served to you. And the farmers that apply these pesticides wear chemical warfare suits to protect themselves. How is that possible that we've got people who are applying these pesticides are protecting themselves literally wearing gas masks, and then we consider that safe to eat? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So avoid the pesticides, avoid the grain. ATIs, this family of chemicals was discovered many years ago. It stands for amylase trypsin inhibitors. Now, these chemicals, highly found in many grains, and wheat has been very well studied, they actually create an inflammatory response in the gut through a receptor called a toll-like receptor. Now, we're not going to have a test at the end of this video so that you have to replicate or repeat these things to me, but I want you to understand that ATIs create gastrointestinal inflammation. And one of the other things they've been shown to do is create pancreatic shutdown. In other words, they deter your pancreas from secreting digestive enzymes, and that in and of itself can create digestive problems. Just another thing that grains are notoriously high in. Then we come to gluten. So I want you to understand, most people have heard of gluten. It's a household word. They go gluten-free by going to the grocery store and buying all these gluten-free products that are still full of corn and rice and sorghum and millet and other grains. But remember, the other grains all have these other problems in common. And again, the bottom line and the kind of the common denominator here is that they lead to chronic inflammation and pain. So I want you to take away from this message today, no grain, no pain. Take the grain out of your diet. You take these things largely out of your diet, and you can lock down and you can take control of the inflammation and be much, much healthier as a result of doing so. And I have seen this in thousands and thousands of patients coming through my clinic with chronic pain and autoimmune conditions. Cutting out grain is essential, and it's crucial to arresting inflammation and allowing the body to heal. This is Dr. Osborne with Web Wellness University. Click the link below this video if you want to learn more about No Grain, No Pain and how it can help you restore your health. Take care.